Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy, and this is going to be a review of the updated Gwolves Hati-S wireless. This mouse has a 3370 Kale 8.0 switches. It ditched the antenna, which I know a ton of people hated. As you can see, there's no antenna present in this wireless system, just a micro USB cable, then the adapter, then the dongle. You could just plug the dongle in, but I wouldn't recommend it because the battery life on the Hati-S wireless isn't great. I'll get more into that later. But yeah, that has been updated, and it seems like the build of the mouse has been updated as well. Because you see, I have 3 units of this mouse. Gwolves was oh so kind to send 3 units of these out, 2 of which I gave away on Twitter. It already happened. I don't like mixing giveaways into reviews of actual good products, so I just chose not to. But getting back to the mice, the reason I say I think something has been updated is because across all 3 of these units, 2 of which I have used a good amount, there is no creaking, rattling, flexing on the sides compared to my past Hati-S, which was like or my past Hati-S wireless, which was basically like screaming whenever I put a bit of pressure on it. And that is across 3 units, which is really surprising. There's no way to say how it's going to hold up over time, but that is just my experience right now. The clicks, I don't really feel like as much of a change has been made. Like when you use the mouse more, the clicks do seem to get a bit lighter. They're not a heavy implementation of Kale 8.0s by any means, so they're good for spamming. The software has a setting for 0 ms debounce time that's seeming to become the standard, so that's cool to see. I haven't had any issues with the click delay. Sometimes I do find them to be a bit mushy. Oh fuck, click start streaming, whoops. I find them to be a bit mushy when I click at the top, and since this is a shorter mouse, it is easy to click at the top, so that's just something to note. They can be like very light. On the unit I have not used, there's definitely a more snappy feeling and a better tactile response, and that is after less than a week of use, so maybe that's just the standard break-in, but I could definitely see these clicks getting a bit creaky and mushy. I don't know if I'm being biased and uncharitable, but that has just been my experience with tons of Gwolves mice, and I had basically dismissed the Hati-S wireless because it's over 10 grams heavier than the wired version, and I saw it like, why not just get the wired version and a paracord? First off, Gwolves charges way too much for wired Hati-S's, and second off, people just don't make paracords anymore. So in my opinion, wireless mice are the meta, and if you want a Hati-S, I think the wireless is going to be the way to go. The updated Hati-S wireless does weigh 60 grams, which is the same weight as their previous versions. I know some people are like, oh, the mouse is smaller and has holes compared to the super light, which is around the same exact weight, but really there's no issues with the weight. This still feels extremely light as a small wireless mouse, and man, I'm not going to talk about the shape. I've talked about the Hati-S shape literally well over a year ago at this point. This is like the 7th iteration of the Hati-S that I've had, so just going over a shape every time is super enjoyable. It is a short mouse, but it still accommodates claw grip of large hands. My hands are 20 by 11. I know people with larger hands who can still pull off claw grip. It does come with included grip tape, so you can make it a bit wider even. The mouse is designed for claw grip with a tall, round hump, but it works very well for fingertip, and it's one of the only wireless mice, along with the Orochi V2 and the Starlight 12, that I think really works for fingertip grip. There's not a ton of small wireless mice, so the Hati-S being on that market, it's good now, just now that it has been improved and there's no more antenna. I'll talk about the sensor later. I feel like I'm missing something right now. Oh yes, weight balancing. The weight balancing, if anything, I would say it would be more towards front heavy than back heavy, which is not the norm with wireless mice. You can see that the battery is not towards the back of the mouse, it is more in the center, and then obviously everything else is towards the front, so it makes sense. And I was not able to notice any problems with the weight distribution when I was actually using the mouse. I just think it's something important to go over with wireless mice, because obviously the more evenly it's spread, like the better it feels. We know that with the super light. So the weight of the mouse obviously is not compared to the Starlight, and I know everybody hates when I talk about the Starlight, But they just announced the Phantom drop is going to have 25k units, so I just found a way to mention that. Like, they mentioned that mid-recording. Awesome stuff. So yeah, the Hati-S, it weighs 60 grams compared to the Starlight at 43 grams. I would say I prefer the Starlight for fingertip, and the shape is going to be preference, but I think the Hati-S is a safer shape for claw grip. Okay, the mouse died on me mid-review. Lovely. But now I want to talk about the sensor, which is a 3370, but surprisingly, look, you see the mouse is set down right now. It is on a 1mm LOD setting. I'll prove that in a second. This mouse is like fully floating and tracking. So the LOD does seem a bit high. I haven't watched any other reviews for this mouse. I don't know if they can corroborate that. But if that could be tuned maybe a bit more true to the 1mm, that would be blessed. The battery life itself is shit. I just want to mention that. Maybe it didn't come fully charged, but I've had to charge it twice in like 5 to 6 days of use. That is kind of crazy for a mouse that does not have RGB. And I'll admit, I have been blessed by the Superlight and the Starlight, which have extremely good battery life, but I still feel like for a mouse without RGB, it should be lasting a bit longer. It does come by default on 500 Hz, so you are going to want to download the software, which they hide in their Discord. They are hiding it. They want you to join their Discord to get the software. I don't like when any company really does that, but yeah, that's just the case. If you want the software, you gotta go in their Discord. You can leave after you download it. Rant aside, the 3370, aside from the LOD feeling slightly high on the lowest setting, it's really just been fine. I cannot notice any difference between like the responsiveness between this final sensor, hero sensor, whatever fucking Razer 5G technology they have going on. It really just feels fine. I haven't had any stutters, with the dongle usually being like 12 inches away. And the last thing that really changed compared to the previous Hati-S wireless is this material that is actually being used. They say it is a stronger plastic. You can see it's a transparent blue plastic. They said they tried lots of materials, decided to settle on this, and maybe that is to explain like why there isn't as much flexing or creakiness. The coating itself isn't rubberized. It's not extremely good. It's sort of slippery, but the only place you're exposed to the actual coating and not holes are on the mouse buttons, and in game my buttons aren't, or my fingers aren't slipping around, so no problems with that. And I've been back and forth on side holes. I think the grip with them is solid. There's no issues with comfort, but it's generally safer to have a solid like side shell. Gwolves stock feet are some of the best, and all that really means is you do not need to change them. But something interesting is how much more one of my copies decides to spin compared to the other. I would presume it has something to do with like a sensor ring defect, and this mouse definitely does feel distinctly more controlled while gliding it. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but honestly, it's pretty minor. And obviously with the updated Hati-S wireless, a lot has improved compared to the 3335 version, but I'm still wary to give it the seal of approval because it is a Gwolves mouse that I cannot attest to the long-term durability of, and I may do a 1-month update on this mouse, and trust me, it won't be the last iteration of the Hati-S shape that I review. And if Gwolves keeps consistently like putting out batches where they make improvements, then yeah, it probably could get the seal of approval. And that's going to be all for the review of the mouse. It is a solid, small, wireless, lightweight mouse. It's $100, I think, all across the board. You can see these are the people who I am under the impression will be getting the mouse. Canadian government, Australian government. I think that means, like, Agile cables. I'm not sure who Australia is, but you see there's not many units being made, so if batches like these go well and they keep pumping them out, then yeah, maybe the Hati-S wireless is like really a top 2, top 3 wireless mouse. Also, they need to get a new on-off button. This one is just cheap as fuck, but that's going to be all for the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I believe the mouse drops the day the video goes live. Appropriate link should be in the description. Peace.